Have you ever woken up feeling tired? Like you've just been to sleep, but you still wake up exhausted? Or maybe you felt exhausted after doing something really simple, like replying to a text or going to the shop or being around people for too long. Maybe you blamed yourself for being lazy, unmotivated, sometimes even broken. But what if your exhaustion wasn't a weakness? What if it's the fact that your body has been running in survival mode for most of your life and it's almost like carrying a backpack full of invisible bricks? So today we're going to talk about why trauma makes you feel exhausted, and not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually too. Because trauma doesn't always scream. Sometimes it whispers quietly with fatigue. And if you have been feeling tired in ways that you can't explain, this video might finally help you understand why. Welcome back to my channel. This is a space for healing, nervous system regulation, self-understanding, and learning how to feel safe inside yourself again. So if that journey resonates with you, please stick around and maybe even hit that subscribe button. Now, let's get into it. Let's talk about the type of exhaustion that sleeping can't fix. So, part one, trauma keeps the body in survival mode. One of the biggest misconceptions about trauma is people believe that trauma lives in the past. It really doesn't. Trauma very rarely stays in the past, and sometimes it lives in the body. Your nervous system was designed to protect you, and when it feels unsafe, it will release hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. And this will do things like speed up your heart rate. It will tense up your muscles and make your body feel tight and tense. And it will also activate the fight, flight mode and freeze and fawn mode. That response is meant to protect you. That response is meant to save your life temporarily, but trauma changes things, especially childhood trauma. Because when stress becomes constant, your body never actually knows when to turn it back off. It's like leaving a car engine on all day and all night. Eventually, something's going to overheat, and your body does exactly the same. We are not designed to be in survival mode 24 hours a day. Our body's not designed for that. But somewhere, the wires got mixed up, and we learned from a very young age that we had to be always in survival mode. So by the time you come to becoming an adult, you feel exhausted by that. Your nervous system is always scanning. It's always preparing for the worst. And you might not even notice that, but your body does. And the worst thing is this even happens when you're in safe environments, because it's something that you've got used to. And you'll probably notice it by your shoulders are always tense. You can't help but kind of lock your teeth together. Your jaw gets tensed. Your mind probably keeps racing. You overthink things. And the biggest one of all is sleep never feels deep enough. Doesn't matter whether you had 5 hours sleep, whether you had 8 hours sleep, whether you had 14 hours sleep. It never feels like you've slept long enough. You always wake up exhausted. Because over time, survival mode becomes exhausting, and not because you're weak either, but because your body has been working in survival mode for so long, it's overworked. Imagine trying to relax while you have an alarm going off in the back of your brain all day long. Eventually, your body's going to crash, and that's what trauma exhaustion can feel like. Okay, so part two is emotional suppression is draining. Trauma teaches people to suppress their emotions, especially if they felt growing up that their emotions were too much. Maybe you got told that you're too sensitive, you're overreacting. Stop crying, be strong. Or you can't talk about that. So instead of feeling your emotions, you learn to bury them. And burying emotions is exhausting. Sometimes exhaustion can be a grief that never got processed. It can be not being allowed to show anger when you feel it. The pressure of pretending you're okay even when you feel like you're drowning inside. Because people with trauma often become almost like emotional shapeshifters. Smiling when they're hurting, comforting others when they feel emotionally drained themselves, or saying, I am fine, even though you feel like you're drowning. And that emotional masking can be exhausting in itself, because not only are you carrying the pain of what the trauma caused, you're carrying the performance with it, the performance of saying that I'm okay, even when you're not. Eventually, the body's going to whisper to you and tell you that it cannot carry on like this. And that whisper usually looks like fatigue. And number 3, trauma changes the brain. Trauma doesn't just affect your emotions. It actually affects how your brain functions. When someone has to go through prolonged stress, prolonged trauma, the brain's too busy learning how to be into survival mode that it doesn't actually know how to rest anymore. The amygdala, the brain's alarm system basically, becomes overactive. The nervous system becomes hyperactive, and even small stresses can feel overwhelming. That's why people with trauma tend to get emotionally drained in certain situations, like being in a crowded room for too long or being in a conflict. Even noticing people, their change of tone when they're talking. Your brain interprets stress completely different after trauma, because at one point in your life it realized that calm and safe were temporary and can disappear at any moment. So your body stayed alert, your mind stayed alert, even when you consciously want to relax. It can also affect your memory. Maybe you'll get brain fog, become more forgetful, almost like you feel disconnected. And not because you are failing, but because your brain is working overtime all the time trying to keep you safe. Imagine your brain is like a computer system that's got 78 tabs open all at once. That's exhausting. No wonder you are tired. So part number 4 would be people pleasing is exhausting. I can say this because I've done it myself. But a lot of trauma survivors become people pleasers because they had to. They had no choice. They had to read the room. They had to make sure they knew what was coming next and be able to protect themselves. This is especially true if love at one point felt conditional. Love's meant to be unconditional. But if you were raised with trauma, the chances are love came with conditions. You probably learned that it was easier to keep everybody happy. It was easy to avoid conflicts and fights. You'll tell yourself you don't want to upset people. You need to stay needed. So you became hyper aware of everybody else's emotions. But this is where the problem stems. You concentrate so much on other people's emotions and you basically neglect your own. You learn to read a room like a survival map. You learn how to shrink yourself so you didn't get noticed. And constantly managing other people's emotions is exhausting. And for a lot of trauma survivors, it almost feels like an obligation that we have to be there and be supportive and everything else for somebody else, even though it's us that need it more than anything else. Constantly managing other people's emotions is exhausting. But unfortunately, a lot of trauma survivors feel like they need to do that in order to survive. And some people are tired because they never rest emotionally. They are too busy making sure everybody else is okay that they don't take care of the most important, which is themselves. And this is not laziness. This is what survival mode basically conditioned you to do. Number 5, and this is one that a lot of people don't even talk about. Healing itself is exhausting because when your body finally starts feeling safe, when emotions stop being suppressed, they come back up to the surface. Grief, anger, fear, memories, these all rise up to the surface. And sometimes your exhaustion isn't a setback, it is proof that you are healing. Proof that your nervous system is finally unclenching after years of holding on too tight. And healing isn't always productive looking. Sometimes it is catching up on sleep. Sometimes it's crying unexpectedly or cancelling plans so you can just have an afternoon to yourself. Maybe you need silence. Your body may be recovering from years of surviving, and that in itself is exhausting. If trauma has made you feel exhausted, I need you to hear this. You are not lazy. You are not unmotivated. You're not failing at life, and you're definitely not weak because you need to rest. Your body adapted to be able to survive situations that probably would have damaged your nervous system. And surviving for years without feeling safe is exhausting. Some people have been fighting battles since childhood. Invisible battles that nobody sees, battles that nobody else notices, battles that nobody has validated, yet they still get up every morning and they still carry on with life. That is not weakness. That is resilience through tired eyes. Feeling starts to change when you stop asking things like, what is wrong with me? And instead maybe ask, what happened to me and how can I support myself now? Your exhaustion probably isn't a character flaw. It's more likely your nervous system asking for compassion. It's asking for rest. It's asking for softness. And most of all, it's asking for safety. And maybe today, understanding that is the first step in your healing journey. If this video resonated with you, please let me know in the comments which step resonated the most. And if you're on a healing journey, please subscribe for more videos about trauma, nervous system regulation, emotional recovery, and finding peace in your own body finally. Please do me a favor and take care of yourself gently today. Lots of love.